Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to this edition of the Finance and Operations Subcommittee meeting. We will call the meeting to order at 5:18 p.m. And we have our first order of business is approval of minutes from January 21st, 2021. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as written.
Thank you. Do I have a second? There's a motion and a second. We'll take a roll call vote. Ms. Saros?
Aye.
Mr. Devon?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That's three to nothing. Okay, the first thing we want to do, we want to welcome a couple of guests to the meeting tonight, Nicole Taub and Ed Spellman. And they're going to give us an overview of the FY22 town budget. So I don't know if you have a presentation or how you'd like to move forward, but we're looking forward to having that update.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the committee, for having Ed and I with you this evening. I think that this is quite timely, given that we are very much it's the beginning of the process of the FY22 budget process. And I say budget process because we have, on some level, been bracing ourselves financially for what FY22 was going to bring, given the negative effects that we've all felt as a result of coronavirus. And so throughout this fiscal year, which we all appreciate and understand to have been incredibly difficult from a financial planning standpoint, which included several, as anticipated, reductions in revenue, which Ed is going to talk about some of the specifics of that, and kind of the corresponding steps the town took as the year was ongoing, including, for example, furloughing staff and reducing hours of staff as we made adjustments to our hours and our services, and also implementing a hiring freeze as of January 1st of 21, requiring specific approval before any of our positions get filled. 21 was tough. 22 is going to be even tougher and is going to require everybody to really buckle down and identify what our true necessary expenditures are in order to present a balanced budget to the town council, which by charter has to be provided to them by May 1st. And so we met with the department heads this morning and shared with them a very similar update to what we're going to offer for the committee and those in attendance this evening as to how we're going to get to a balanced budget and how we're going to get through fiscal 22 financially. And some important things to keep in mind is that we expect that revenues are going to continue to be decreased as a result of COVID until the community and our businesses have an opportunity to rebuild and come back to a full strength of operation, and that not just the meals tax and the hotel tax, but the significantly reduced growth that we're used to seeing that also provides an important revenue stream is going to continue into the next year. We also have received preliminary state aid numbers. And so while our state aid is going to potentially increase by $300,000 for next year, our assessments are also going to increase by $400,000 this year, leaving us with actually a net reduction in state aid of roughly $100,000. So right off the bat, from that perspective, we're starting with a reduction that we have to make up for. And so what we're talking about is a nearly $10 million deficit based on our projected revenues and our anticipated expenditures, including those items that we do not have flexibility to adjust, and our contractual obligations to our union employees, including the 2% cost of living and any other financial benefits that are scheduled to take effect in year 3 of the contract. So kind of with that overview, with your permission, Mr. Chair, I'll ask Ed to provide the committee with the specific numbers on those revenue reductions based in large part on what we've seen this year and what we have to compare against from our last kind of traditional year being fiscal 20.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Through the chair, the local estimated receipts is the third largest source of revenue for the town. And what I'm going to do is compare the fiscal 20, the budgeted numbers for the major categories like our motor vehicle excise compared to what we're looking at this year. Our initial projections are about $368,000 less. Local option meals tax, the number is $729,000 less than fiscal 20. The hotel tax is down $615,000. We're looking at a slight decrease in our pilot payments where one of the projects is rolling off. We're looking at a reduction from billboard revenue of approximately $1 million. Looking at a reduction in licenses and permits of about $400,000. And then also the interest income, a reduction of about $800,000. And those are the major categories and the major decreases we're seeing in our fiscal 2022 projections compared to our fiscal 20 budget projections pre-COVID.
And so another piece of that, and it kind of ties into what Ed was just mentioning, was the lack of availability of one-time revenue sources and also a significant depletion of our available free cash. And so to try to adjust specifically on the free cash side of things, you know, we just, as I think everybody is aware, submitted our FY21 capital plan. And the projects that have been prioritized in the capital plan are really those high priority necessary items. And there's no utilization of free cash to support any of those projects. And as a result of those two things in concert, the total value of the capital plan is half of what it was last year. And that was just an area, you know, we're having to make reductions in every possible realm that we talk about and that we deal with. And, you know, this is not a hypothetical. I'm not generally, I know maybe members of this committee don't know me as well. I'm not generally one to talk doom and gloom. I said it this morning, I generally prefer unicorns and rainbows. And we're talking lightning bolts and thunderclouds. Like that's the only way that I can think to talk about, unfortunately, the financial situation. The other piece, I know there's been a lot of talk and there's been a lot of speculation about the federal stimulus availability. So I thought we could also offer an update on where we are on the town side of that, understanding that the school department has received funding specific to the schools and also may receive additional in the future. But for the town, we received an allocation of $3.2 million in CARES Act money. We have overspent that now based on the expenditures incurred, not just on the town side, but that includes a preliminary submission of over $1 million to support school-related purchases within the town's allocation. But we also have recently learned that FEMA reimbursements, which were previously 75% eligible, are now becoming 100% eligible. So that will take maybe $38,000 off of the CARES balance and shift it to the FEMA balance. So, you know, that is certainly helpful, but at this point, we don't expect to receive any additional funding pursuant to the CARES Act allocation. We have learned that under the Rescue Act, which I think I got an alert was officially signed today, that's the $1.9 trillion relief package that the president signed. Our share of that is $3.669 million. So there's been a lot of talk of 120 billion and you know, numbers with many more zeros at the end of that, but our number is 3.669. And you know, we can't rely on that. I mean, first of all, it's not enough. It's not enough to bridge the deficit in 22. It's not enough to bridge the deficit that we saw in 21 that required free cash and required one-time sources. And we don't know when it's going to be available, and we don't know what restrictions it's going to come with. And frankly, if we look to rely on the one-time revenue sources, we're going to compound the problem and just be dealing with it next year instead of this year. So we are obviously incredibly thankful for the funding and thankful to our delegation for securing that for us, but it's not enough to bridge the gap or alleviate the need to make the 10% reductions that we've imposed on all of our departments. So again, it's pretty bleak. I'm not being dramatic. I'm not, trying to paint this terrible picture unnecessarily. And so for that, I'm thankful for the opportunity for Ed and I to be here this evening so that we can make everybody aware of what we're dealing with and hopefully work together to find some resolution and effective and efficient way to continue providing services to our residents, but also being very cognizant of the financial constraints we're going to have to do that under.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for the update. Members of the subcommittee, any questions?
Mr. Chair, I have a few.
Mr. Devon?
Thank you. Through the chair. When are you going to make these numbers available to the public?
Which
And when can
number?
we get them hard? And when can we get hard copies of said numbers?
I'm not sure I understand which numbers you're referring to, Mr. Devon.
Well, the numbers that Ed went through as far as receivables being down, these different numbers and things like that. Are we going to receive those hard copy so that we can kind of look at them?
So we did a first quarter update for the council, and the summaries of the revenues received to date are on the town's website under the fiscal year 2021 budget link. That also includes the FY20 budget to actual and the 21 budget, and then the first quarter actuals at that point. That information is all already posted online.
Okay. So we'll have to dig into those and get them, right?
I'm happy to send you the link.
Would you? That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah. No problem.
Any other questions, Mr. Devon?
No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any other questions from the subcommittee?
No.
Okay, hearing none. I just have a couple, Ed, if you don't mind. Some of those revenues like excise tax and things like that, why the significant decrease? Do we know?
We had decreases in the first commitment, the dollar values, and also the first commitment. And this year, we had a decrease in the number of vehicles. We'll see if it picks up in the second and third commitment, but right now, the dollar values were down several $100,000 in the first commitment compared to the first commitment for the prior year.
Okay, because I'm just trying to find a parallel between, I mean, I understand hotel tax and some of the, meals tax, but the excise tax just kind of baffles me. I don't know if it's just part of the economy right now or.
The excise tax is based on a graduated system. You purchase a new vehicle and it's taxed at 90% of the value the first year, and it graduates down. It goes to 60, 40, 20, and 10, and it stays at 10 after the fifth year. So if people are purchasing new cars, they trade in an older car with a lower value. The newer vehicle has a higher excise tax that the community receives for the first few years. And with COVID, I know the sales were down, and in turn, the potential increase or equalizing the excise to the community was also down.
Okay, so it's a function of the economy, I guess.
I think all of the numbers you're looking at, all of the categories, meals tax, hotel, licenses and permits, investment income, it's all COVID related. Okay. And then just, and Nicole or Ed, I don't know if there's a target at this point, but I guess it would help us to understand the commitment for the school department to the total town for this shortfall.
So every department was asked to effectively level fund from 21, add their contractual obligations, and then reduce by 10%. And if everybody did that, that would bridge the gap. And I believe that we sent to Dr. Hackett based on just the information we had for steps and lanes and for the 2%, a preliminary assessment of what that looks like.
Okay. And there's no, I guess the only comment I would have to that is, that's fairly significant to a school budget that's far larger than most of the other budgets in town. So it will give us some angst as we go through and try to figure out how to get there. But, certainly we'll look at things as part of the town and how we can deliver our services as well.
Absolutely understood. And kind of on that point, Mr. Chair, I also would share that same angst is being felt by our smaller departments who are predominantly salary based in their budgets. And are you can only cut your office supply budget so much, is what I say oftentimes, before you're having to dig into salaries. So I appreciate the difficulty in that this presents to all of our departments and to the town as a whole. I'm confident that we'll be able to get through it. I think that, again, shouldn't be unexpected at this point. And so, we'll certainly continue, and we've committed to working with all of the departments, including the schools, perhaps in a more hands-on way than we've done in the past, to help everybody work through this and get everybody to a place where what we're presenting as of May 1st is a balanced budget that we can all move forward successfully with.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's just important that the public and the balance of the committee understand, the situation and the expectation so that, we can communicate that properly.
Certainly. And we're happy to come back. Just let us know.
Okay. Any other questions from the
No,
committee?
Mr. Chair, I think I know exactly where we are.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Devon. Well, thank you, Nicole, and thank you, Ed. We really appreciate you taking the time to give us an overview. It certainly helps. One of the things that I want to, and I don't know procedurally how this would work, but it would be helpful just to give us some grounding if we could get a financial review, I guess, of the school department. And I don't know if we can use the town auditor to do that, but it would certainly help us in this process because, at that level, we may have to start, do a zero-based budget and start kind of from the beginning up. So that would be, if you could give us some advice on that, I'd appreciate it.
Certainly. So why don't I can circle back with Ed and see if we can come up with some ideas. I don't know if that's something that, let me talk to Ed. I don't want to make any commitments.
You don't mind.
Okay.
I would just add that we do get audited every year by the town's auditor. So we would have the audit report depending on the fiscal year. Obviously, the current fiscal year is not going to be part of the audit report, but we can certainly start with last year's audit report.
When Dr. Hackett, when you say do you mean the council's auditor?
Yes.
Through the chair.
Yes, Ms. Saros.
Is there some kind of spreadsheet where it separates the cost of every single school compared to each other?
It's yes is a short answer. I mean, it depends on what's the scope of what you're talking about. If you're talking about just what it costs to operate buildings, it's one thing. If you're talking about operating buildings and personnel or just straightly personnel, it's something else. So the operation of every single building year over year is a little harder to tease out, only because we generally get billed for certain utilities as a lump sum bill. But we can certainly get that to you.
Yeah, definitely. If we could see what each school is costing the town. I mean, we're running 10, 11 buildings with the superintendent's building, it'd be nice to see that.
I would offer that as your superintendent, I might have some ideas as to how we might be able to approach this, only just based on 25 years worth of experience, 5 of those here. So if the committee would allow, we can put together some thoughts on how to get to the number. We are reconciling the numbers that Ed provided on steps and lanes. I think we're fairly close to his estimates. I think we're in the ballpark. It's the starting point. So I would suggest that at our next meeting, we can bring a first look, or actually it'd be kind of a second look rollover budget, so that you can see our actual starting point, if everything were going to stay the same with the same staffing and making adjustments for enrollment changes. So that you can kind of get a sense for what kind of gap we're talking about.
That would be very helpful. Thank you, Dr. Hackett. And I want to clarify for Ed and Nicole, I'm not talking about an audit, Doctor. I mean, I know we get an audit every year. I think it's been a good while since we had an overall review. And I know watching the Ways and Means last night and listening to our town auditor, I think he has suggestions as well. And I think having another set of eyes look at our financial overview from the past year may give us some suggestions as well. Because I think we need to get as many perspectives that are close to the town on how to manage this and how to attack it as we can. I think we owe the public that, and we certainly owe the school system that. So that's my hope, is that they can look at our past fiscal year and give us some guidance as well.
Sure.
If that makes sense, and maybe that's not within the purview of what they do for the town, but I think it would be a worthwhile exercise.
Sure. I'll have to just
Okay.
inquire with the council, because we don't direct, that was my hesitation, is that we don't direct his work, because he's funded through the council. So we would have to potentially coordinate that with President Hume and see what that would require on their end.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I mean, I know the time is ticking away too, between now and May 1st, but I don't think it would be something that would be, would really take that long, to Dr. Hackett's point. So, yeah. Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Oh, Mr. Chair, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. Again, thank you, Ed and Nicole. We appreciate you taking the time, and we'll look forward to following up.
Thank you. I apologize, we can't stay. We actually
Thank
have
you.
another night of Capitol.
If that's the kind of news you're going to bring, we don't want you to stay. So
I know, I really don't like that that's my first participation in this meeting, but hopefully there will be better news to come in the future.
all right, thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good night,
Ed.
everyone.
Yeah.
Good night. Okay, and I believe, unless we want to move forward, I believe we're going to table the rest of the agenda this evening, and let's talk about some future meeting dates and get that first pass look at the budget, or second pass, or wherever we're at.
Mr. Chair, at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we table the rest of our itinerary until a more opportune time to look at what's been presented to us via the town.
Can I
Okay,
just
we
ask
have a motion. Go ahead.
just a question through the chair? So it recently was brought to my attention, and I will be okay with tabling the rest of this, but it was recently brought to my attention that the air filters in East have not been changed in now 2 months. We are in a global pandemic where everyone's
Ms. Saros, just not to stop you, but we need to get a second on the motion, and then you can
second.
comment. Okay. You're all set. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. The air filters in East have not been changed in over 2 months. They are sitting in the basement. We need someone to get in there as soon as like tomorrow. I mean, I would be livid if I knew that was the case. Whether it's an HVAC technician or that works for the town, we need to get someone in there. So,
I would just share with the committee, with Ms. Soros, that it's a little bit more complicated than that. It's not really subject to public discussion right now. As you know, we are still under construction. And there's, there are several items that are still part of that. And I know that the school building committee, as well as our OPM, are aware and are working through the issue. So if I believe it will be resolved shortly, but it's not a matter of us just not doing it. So just be clear.
just as long as it's done sooner than later.
Understood.
you.
No, understood.
Thanks, Dr. Hackett. And Mr. Devon, you're our representative on that
Yes,
committee.
I
So
will say this, without seeing the spec sheet, I know, depending upon the manufacturer's, shall we say, recommendations, they can be anywhere from monthly to, quarterly. So without seeing the specification books of the mechanicals of said assets, but I can tell you what, it's something that I can bring up with the OPM ASAP. I have a call into him. We should be talking within 24 hours.
thanks, Mr. Devon. Yeah, if you can pass that information along,
Yes,
that would be
sir.
appreciated.
Thank
Okay,
you, Ms. Saros.
Thank you.
so we have a motion on the table to table the rest of the agenda. So I'll take a roll call vote. Ms. Saros,
Aye.
Mr. Devon,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So we will table. Before we adjourn, or I entertain a motion, let's just see if we can get a couple of dates on the calendar for next week.
So if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, if I could just kind of address the overall schedule for budget development, which
That'd be great.
okay. So we are looking at having to have the school committee do a final budget vote for a budget that will be presented to Mayor Kokoris on Monday, April 26th. That working backwards from that date, we would have a public hearing at the school committee level on April 12th. That means that we would need to have the budget in as close to final condition as we can get it at that time. And then, as you know, at a public hearing, we would be listening to public feedback and any adjustments that might result from that session. So as I start from today, being the 10th, I would suggest that just providing at the school committee meeting on Monday, the 15th, a brief overview of what we discussed tonight, was discussed tonight. I think this, if we could have the finance committee meet again on the either
16th.
yeah, I mean, I actually cannot do the 16th. I've got a school advisory board meeting, but the 17th is Wednesday, and St. Patrick's Day may not work for some. Or the 18th, which is Thursday, and I know that's a little bit, actually, no, there's a South Middle School of Butters meeting. So it kind of looks like it may have to be Wednesday.
Or can we do it Monday before the school committee meeting?
We could do that, or we could do it earlier than, as long as if we could do it earlier than the 6:30 on Tuesday, that would work.
I think there's a school building this coming Monday.
Yes. Oh, that's right, Mr. Devon, you're right.
So Tuesday, what time?
We do 5:15 on Tuesday, the 16th.
Does that work for you, Ms. Saros?
Yep.
Okay, so let's put that down. And then the 18th, what's the issue with the 18th? Because I think we should do 2 next week, and then we'll figure out if we need 2 more the following week.
We can do it. There's a South Middle School neighborhood meeting, which we
At what time?
that's at 6 o'clock, but we can work around that.
Because I was gonna say we could do 7. I'm clear on Thursdays after this week.
Okay.
So we could, yeah.
Could we do 5:50? No, can't do 5:50. You want to plan for 7?
Does that work for everyone?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
What was
Okay,
that?
so
That's-
the 18th.
The 18th.
So 5:15 on the 16th and 7 PM on the 18th. Okay,
Taking it out into the following week, if we dare. School committee meets on the Monday, the 22nd. The only day that I would be able to do that week would be Tuesday, the 23rd.
So let's take that as well. Let's do 5:30.
Okay.
So we give Ms. Saros time to get home.
And
Does that
then,
work?
Thanks. I'll be driving. It's fine.
Okay,
and then the last week in March, school committee's on the Monday, the 29th. That week
so
is,
the 30th.
yeah, I mean, that week's actually wide open if you want to talk about, potentially we could do it to the earliest suggestion on the 29th prior to the school committee meeting.
Let's do that.
And then we could do another date that week, maybe the April 1, Thursday.
And let's do the 7 again,
7 on Thursday, April 1.
or 6. I mean, if 6 works.
6 works for me.
All right, let's do 6.
And then the 29th, 5:15.
Yep.
Okay.
And then public hearing is the 5th.
Public hearing will be on the 12th is the public hearing.
The 12th, okay, we present to the school committee on the 5th. Public hearing the 12th.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Does that
And-
work for everyone? And you'll send these dates out and,
Yes,
okay,
Yes, please. Thank you.
will do.
okay. Any other comments or questions?
I'm all set, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call vote. Ms. Saros,
aye.
Mr. Devon,
Aye.
chair votes aye. This meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Night, everybody.
See you soon.
Uh,
Yep.